sure that. All right, we're recording now. Theodore Salisbury, I owe you an apology, first of all, because you hit me up about the Powerwolf video about the werewolf transformation, and I thought that was cool as hell. I was like, okay, maybe this dude like goes around and he does a bunch of stuff for a bunch of different artists and things like that. And then went and looked you up, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was like, my God, you have quite the list of things going on over there in your career already.
Yeah, I like making things.
Yeah, that's apparent. The making things. So, like, give me a rundown about you. Where are you from? Like, how do you even figure out that this is what you want to do with your life?
Yeah, so I live in Hull. I live in the UK. I have a workshop here. So I kind of really got into prosthetics and makeup by accident. I actually wanted to be an illustrator when I started to kind of getting into art. So I did a lot of digital art on the iPad and all kinds of crazy things on Photoshop and whatnot. And then I did a course, an art and design course at college, and they taught me how to sculpt there. So from my sculpting sort of skills and my design background, it kind of made sense that I could kind of create the things I drew on paper in 3D. So from there, it just kind of evolved into making masks and mold making, and then I ended up working in film.
So, like, it all started with drawing.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn incredible. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life, let alone bring one alive to 3D.
To be honest, the same thing here. I can't really draw on paper anymore, but I can sculpt.
So when you gained this one, you lost the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, that's actually really intriguing. So we got a whole bunch of subscribers submitted questions, people that are intrigued with what you do. That obviously the whole world has seen some of the things that you do, and they just don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like you guys really don't get enough credit. You're the ones that are creating the monsters that give us the chills. It's not, I don't know. To me, I feel like there should be just the same with music that's in movies.
Yeah.
A lot of times, people, once you're outside of the movie, you don't really think about the actual people behind it.
A lot of it goes unseen, and that's why I think, you know, this call is quite important to me. It's quite unheard of that you get asked to do things like this, so it's quite an experience.
I'm definitely glad to have you here, because it's not often that you do get to talk to somebody in your line of work. Most of the time, it's like people see your name in the credit if they stay for the credits, and it's like, oh, that drives me insane. All of this hard work. Like, I'm one of those people that likes to watch those shows like Face Off and all of these things where they're actually doing the sculpting and doing the molding. The amount of time and effort that goes into it, only to at the end just there's a name in the credit. I don't know. That boggles my mind how there's not more focus and awards and things like that people are actually aware of. You guys should have your own damn award ceremony that's specifically for sculpting or specifically for prosthetics. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. We wouldn't be afraid of the movies if it wasn't for you. That means that you also have a different kind of mind up there creating things.
I'm currently in the mix of writing a horror movie myself.
Oh, I can't wait. That's going to be freaking fantastic. Let me see what people have. I'll look through the questions briefly. Some of them are going to be off the hip. Some of them are going to be, there's no real timeline involved. But Rudolph says, what's the most disgusting creation that you ever had to create?
There is one that springs to mind, actually. I had to do a scene where a man eats a grape and he has this sort of weird contagious disease where he then now throws up grapes all the time. So he goes to the doctor to go and get this all figured out. This is all on a short film. I think it was called Don't Water the Vine. And so he goes to the doctor and he throws up a bunch of grapes, and the doctor picks up one of the grapes and then eats one.
No!
And then all of a sudden, he ended up giving birth to an exact copy of the guy that who's his patient through his mouth. So he basically regurgitates his entire body, and I had to build a sort of silicon mask rig of the doctor to make it look like this guy was coming through his mouth. It was pretty wild.
Who comes up with this shit?
Yeah, I know.
Whoever said, well, this is what's going to happen. Like, they just bring you the idea and you're like, okay, now I have to make this happen. Like,
yeah, I read the script and I was like, that's ridiculous, but I love it and I've got to do it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The wild things that people must bring before you.
Absolutely. I've done another one quite recently. That was a woman who has an octopus pulled out of her chest. And I had to build a sort of body rig for that as well. So we had a sort of fake silicon octopus that we pull out of this lady's breasts, and it's for this music video, and basically ink and all kinds of weird gooiness are just going everywhere. It's just a real nasty scene.
Oh God, it's like, I don't know. You guys get to just be horrific.
Yeah, we really push the boundaries.
Yeah. Is there like how do you? There really, I guess there is no boundaries anymore. Really,
Definitely not.
I've seen everything that there. If you've seen Serbian film, there's definitely no boundaries. There's a lot of things out there that are pushed too far for some people, but I guess on the whole, humanity is pretty much ready for anything at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
We would like to see some more creative new things instead of so many damn people repeating things over and over again and making remakes of this or that.
Yeah.
But that is one of the questions on the list. I'm going to go ahead and dive into your mind a little bit. It says, if you could recreate any character whatsoever, like redesign a character from historical movies, where would you go?
I don't know about redesign, but I would love to create the xenomorph alien character.
Ooh,
I would really love to just have been on the set for that, and I would love to have worked with Ridley Scott. That would have been honestly an amazing thing to be doing. But yeah, I honestly like Giga's illustrations and artwork there is just such a good reference for the Alien films, and everything that they've done has just been practically just incredible. I would love to do something like that.
Yeah, that's some now that you mention, like, there's tons of masterful sculpting in there, and that's literally one of the most terrifying aliens that anybody has ever seen on the screen.
It's not changed.
You know, even to this day, if I go back and watch the very first, it's like, oh hell no.
Yeah, exactly. This is brilliant. I love it.
That's a damn good answer. I wasn't even thinking about that route. Oh man. Let's see. Don't want to skip over anybody. What kind of Emma says, what kind of training do you need to become a makeup artist?
You definitely need the I wouldn't say you need a qualification, but I would say you would definitely need to look at the issues, like looking after the skin, knowing what contaminants and allergens that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Like, there's the health and safety is the biggest one, because especially
that's not even something I think a lot of people consider, because you guys are working with some kind of volatile elements over there.
Yeah, exactly. Like for us, like prosthetics wise, I mean, we're gluing bits of rubber and unknown bits of random objects that we can find to make it look like the thing that we want. So it's kind of knowing a lot of the chemistry behind things, and knowing that certain materials that you're using are non-toxic, that they move well. For me, as a makeup artist, I mean, I didn't really train until I got to university. I went to the London College of Fashion, and in London, it was the University Arts London, and I did about 2 years of my degree there, and I didn't finish it. I ended up leaving because I was just working, doing other jobs. So from the age of 17, I was already working as a makeup artist, and that was kind of self-taught and learning through the internet. So when I was doing my degree, it kind of really opened my eyes in terms of what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing in terms of the allergens and the health and safety part of it. But I wouldn't say you really need training necessarily. It's more time and practice. Time and practice, definitely, especially if you're doing something prosthetic wise. It's learning how to sculpt, learning anatomy.
Yeah, I was gonna say anatomy has to be a big thing in there because you got to know where certain things go under the skin in order to even sculpt something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
sure, if it's a made up creature, the anatomy could be anything. But if you're talking, you want something to look realistic regarding humans.
Yes,
we've all seen bad sculpting. We've all looked at something and gone, that don't look quite right. Something's
exactly. That's it. I mean, anybody can teach you anything, but you know, it's the technicalities that you have to really spend the time on. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for 10 years now, and I'm still learning, and people that have been doing this stuff for the past 30, 40 years are still learning, because there's always new techniques and new materials and new technologies that are coming out. I did a master's degree between all of this as well, and I mostly learned sculpture through that course, and that was the biggest mark of my career, I think, learning how to sculpt.
I mean, it's not an easy task.
No.
Everyone's got to start somewhere. If I were to sculpt you something right now, it'd probably come back to you as a piece of clay that I started with. It's just, I don't know. I have a brain where I can think of things, but when it comes to actually bringing those things to fruition in front of you, that's something completely different.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just get a mental block. I get that all the time.
So what's your most challenging project that you've worked on?
The most challenging one, I think, was there's a film that's coming out this year. It's called Stand Your Ground, and that was quite an interesting one because it was kind of a follow-up, roughly with the same crew that we had for the Last Man Down film. But what we had to try and do is make our main character not look exactly like how he does in every movie ever, because he's big face. So we have to try and find creative ways to make him somebody different, but also still sellable Daniel Styson. So I had to come up with ideas of like designing tattoos and printing them and then applying them, but we had to apply them every day for 40 days on set, which is just something that we have to roll with every single day of filming when you've got a main character who has tattoos and scarification and all kinds of things. And it's an action movie as well, so you've got to consider all the continuity with the blood, and sometimes you might be shooting from scene 1, 2, and 3, and then the next day you're shooting scene 48, 45, and 47.
Oh my god!
And it doesn't shoot in order, and that's down to whether the locations have to rent the certain location for a certain time, or you've only got a certain amount of camera equipment that you can have for a certain amount of time, or your actor's only available for a couple of days. So sometimes you just have to just roll with it and remember what you did about a week ago, and then continue exactly what it was a week ago, and then reapply it all.
you have to. I was just about to say, you don't even have it like right there in front of you to look at and say, okay, this is where everything was at. Let's just recreate it.
Yeah.
You have to remember it.
We have a continuity log, so we have like a full database of everything, every single shot. And it's down to camera movement. If the camera's moved 3 or 4 times within that scene, we mark camera movement A, B, C, D, E, and then you also might have a second camera or a third camera. So you've got camera A, camera B, camera C, and they've all got A, B, C, D.
Oh my god, it sounds like a gaggle.
Absolutely. And with me, ADHD and dyslexic is impossible.
I've got the ADHD too. I feel you. A lot of things are impossible. Focusing on any one task for too long is damn impossible. So
yeah, exactly. That's why I think films for me is great, because it's 15 minutes of that and 15 minutes of this.
Yeah. Somebody said, what's the process like creating a custom prosthesis from concept to execution? Like, how does it all begin?
I'm currently in a process now of making this sort of giant fish creature. It's a full body prosthetic makeup. with one creature suit and then a full body transformation, almost kind of like how we did the Powerwolf. But what we have is basically somebody comes to me with a script and some reference images, and they go, we want this, but we don't really know entirely what we can do and what we can't do practically, and this is how much money we have. So then I go, okay, right, well, how much time have you got? And then they say, oh, we've got 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, right. So we then have to we go whittling it down from how much time we have and how much money we can spend, and then from there we pick out which materials we need to then look at first as a priority for the entirety of the character build, and then you start looking at your concept work, because then you kind of have to kind of look at past pictures of what works on this particular camera and this lighting, and then you go textures wise, this is what this skin tone looks like in this particular mold that we've made in a past project. So this entire process can take up to 2-3 weeks depending on what the project is. But for me on this current one, I kind of got dropped into the deep end, and we've just had to design a full fish creature, which has been about a week of design, and now I've got 4 weeks to make the entire creature suit as well as a full body prosthetic makeup as well.
Good Lord. Talk about a time crunch.
Yeah. And each one of those things has to be individually sculpted at full body scale and then molded separately into multiple pieces. So say, for example, you need a hand that's webbing like this. You might need to consider details of the fingernails being extended. So you have to build separate extensions for the fingers. Then you've got the webbing of the hand. Then you have the rest of the arm turning into gills, and then you've got the other part of your arm, and then you eventually have to work every single part of the body.
Jesus Christ. It sounds like a hell of a project. That's what it sounds like.
It's kilos of material.
So do you keep, so say you mold something, do you just got a warehouse where you keep everything, or do you say, okay, we're only using this one time?
So sometimes we have throwaway molds, which we do in plaster, or we do them in alginate, which is a kind of sort of seaweed material. When you go to the dentist, you get dental impressions, and they make molds of your teeth. It's the same stuff that we use for life casting.
Okay.
We call those throwaway molds because you can only use those once, and then once you've got your casting, that casting will last forever. But the mold will just go straight in the bin.
Okay.
So sometimes you have projects where there's a one-off, or sometimes where you sculpt something really cool, like a bunch of wounds. You might go, oh, this might be quite useful as a generic bullet wound for my next project. So make this out of silicone. So then that way you've got another 200, 300 uses of this one mold, and then you can bust out as many as you want. Or you can make a shop. Some people I know do that. A lot of the time we just throw our things away or give them back as company assets, depending on what they want. For if they want feature film part 2 or part 3, they might need to archive certain things. So yeah, we have to go through those processes as well.
So there literally is just a warehouse of monsters somewhere.
Yeah.
That's all the things that we don't think about. There's a lot that goes into it all. And it's not just filming. Like, it's just, you said, going back and looking at the placement of things. Because people out there, there are crazy ass people out there that'll go slide by slide in a movie just to see, oh, nope, something's off. Somebody did something wrong here.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes you might also run into a project, especially the lower budget end. You might have a chunk of money to run the film halfway. So you might have to wait maybe 2 or 3 years before the other chunk of money comes in. So you might have to keep everything and wait, and then move on to then recreate everything again, which is something that we're currently waiting on. We did a feature film about a year ago, and we've had to rebuild the creature suit for it in hopes that in the next coming months we can shoot the whole thing. But then again, we might have to wait because we've got some other things to do as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you have to recreate it exactly the way that it was before, or has do the creatures undergo and evolve like evolution sometimes?
Depends on what the script is, I guess. With the one that we've got to keep hold of, it's an exact replica. So we've already shot half the footage with this creature. So because we now already have this guy on camera, we have to make sure exactly the same thing is occurring this next half of the time we shoot. Otherwise,
that would be the hardest part for me. Making an exact copy of something is,
and that's why we keep the molds. If we have molds of all the separate pieces, it makes it a lot easier because we can kind of I keep a sort of, it's almost like a recipe cookbook of how to and it's 2 parts of blue, 2 parts of black, 1 part of green, and then that's the skin color, and then you kind of just mix the entire lot with all this material, and then you've kind of got your base tone for making the creature, and the rest is kind of hand painting it to detail match everything else.
so did you ever do, when you just went, I know you say you went from school to film, have you done anything with theater at all?
I've done a couple of things. I did a couple of operas. I haven't really done a lot of plays or anything like that. That was mostly just when I was as a student in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really haven't done a lot of theatre, to be honest.
It's interesting. A lot of other people, like even the actors and stuff, a lot of them start in theater, move on to film. You just kind of skipped over a whole group.
I kind of just I did what everybody else doesn't do, and that was kind of by accident, because I didn't want to do makeup as prosthetics. It wasn't like I chose to do it. It just fell on me, and I loved it. So I went from designing characters to then making them in prosthetic world, but then also because I did that because I thought it was just a fun thing to do, I got hired to do something to make a special effect for a film, and I was 17 at the time. This was my first ever movie, so I hadn't done any makeup courses or anything. I was completely self-taught, and I ended up going on to this feature film as the special makeup effects supervisor. And I just did it.
You must have been pretty damn good self-taught. I've seen some people that can get it and some people that just can't get it.
I was not. I remember that. That was a very interesting experience because I hadn't really had a job interview ever. So this was like my first ever job that I'd ever done.
So you never worked in any, most people, what we do, we start off in retail or we start off in food.
Okay.
You just kind of became your career.
Yeah, on the side of that, next to my mum and dad's house now. Now I've got my own house. There was a metal factory that was just in the back garden. So I used to go and visit Alan, who owned the metal factory, and I was making little props, and I made an Assassin's Creed hidden blade.
Oh my God, everybody wants one.
Yeah, so I made this thing out of a draw slide, and you kind of pulled a sort of a piece of string that was connected to the rig. So as you extended your finger, the blade comes out. And because I wanted to kind of get it finished as a sort of detail piece, and I was like, okay, maybe I can go and get it etched or welded or something over at the workshop. And then I brought it over, and they said I did such a good job with it that they offered me a job over the summer. And I ended up working there for 4 years as a welder.
You see right here, people, anything that you want to do, just be good at it.
Yeah, you just got to eventually good things fall in place.
So it's not how you planned it out from the start, but it turned out great.
Yeah, I never went out looking for it. I just enjoyed doing what I did as a child, and I guess people saw the potential of what they needed in me, so I kind of just rolled with it.
To me, it's one of those awesome jobs where you don't ever have to lose your imagination. You don't ever have to, no one's telling you to be right and proper. They're telling you, give me gooey guts. It's wild. It is really like a dream job for a lot of people out there.
Well, honestly, I would just say, just do it. If you've got spare time, you can always order a box of clay. It's only going to cost you $12, to get a big bag of it. Just sit there and sculpt something, and eventually you might get seen. It doesn't cost you anything else, and you don't have to you just take pictures.
How overcrowded would you say the career is right now? Is there a massive amount of people that are trying to do it because of shows and things like Face Off? Or
So yeah, there was definitely a massive outbreak with Face Off. You've got Glow Up as well, which is our sort of UK version. So a lot of people have been inspired by that. And when you kind of go to a college and you think about how many colleges are just in my country, in the UK, you've got maybe 300, 400 colleges that are all teaching makeup, beauty, and special effects, and then you've got universities that are all heading in every single city that we have that are all teaching makeup, prosthetics, and then you've got 30 or 40 students in every single class who may or may not graduate depending on what they're doing. But you think about how many hundreds of thousands of people are graduating and training in makeup every single year and all competing for the same jobs. It's crazy.
But ultimately, it's going to come down to who could do the best things.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's also, if you run into 4 or 5 really good people, it might just be a choice of who's cheaper. That also is the business end of it too.
On the business side, is it bidding or?
Yeah, pretty much. So I have to create on a lot of the projects that I'm doing, we have to create pitch decks. So I'll get given the script and then I'll kind of come up with a concept of what this thing could look like, and then bash out all these reference images and sketches of what we could do, how much money it would cost, and then send it back to them. And I might not hear back ever, and I might have spent about a week making this whole pitch and then just not hear anything back because somebody's been cheaper or they found somebody who's got 10 more years experience than I do. So it's just the way of the industry. It's tough like that.
Yeah, it sounds like it could get a little cutthroat at times.
It's massively cutthroat.
That's all right. Hey, you got to be a strong one to be able to do that, though.
Yeah, you just have to live and let bygones be bygones.
Yeah. Speaking of that, are there any other artists out there currently doing what you do that you kind of, were there any that you looked up to when you first started out, or any that inspire you?
Gordon, he was one of the biggest designers.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
So Neil Gordon is one of the big designers from Doctor Who. He literally made all the aliens that I only ever loved. So I grew up reading all these books in the Makeup Artist magazine. Thomas Supranant, who I adored through IMATS, which was a big sort of trade show event, and I never thought I'd ever meet him. And he won an Emmy Award for Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Prosthetics, and he's honestly incredibly talented with hand painting. And I got to meet him once because he was doing a makeup demo in London. So I went and spoke to him and said, I love your work. I would love to just sit and watch you do your entire demo, which was about 4-hour long makeup application. And I just didn't pay attention to anybody else who was doing any makeup, even though you've got BAFTA and Oscar award nominees. But for me, it was because I came from a sort of art and design background. For me, painting was the biggest part. So I was watching him paint, and it's just mind-blowing how you can make so much detail out of a 3D surface, but you have to try and turn something that isn't skin that looks like skin. So yeah, I remember watching him for 4 hours doing this makeup demo, and then eventually we kind of just went out for a pint at the end of the day, and I just had a chat, and we became friends for a while, and he taught me a load of things about painting and application, and that's kind of where my main love of prosthetics kind of came from.
Very cool. Like, so you've actually got to work with some of the people that you look up to.
Yeah, I think the following year I actually did a demo together.
It's freaking awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
Dreams coming true, man. That's it's unheard of in a lot of careers. Like, I think it's awesome. I really do. I just like that you could look at, just like same thing with music artists. Some people that perform songs for their people that they grew up listening to. It's, I don't know. To me, it's meeting your heroes can be a dangerous thing or it can be a good thing.
Exactly. And I think starism, I call it, is, it can be a massive block. You kind of walk in and you feel like you have to be a certain way because you're in a presence of somebody that you've seen and you've looked up to for such a long time. But you know, if you come in with the approach of not knowing anything but kind of just want some guidance, and you know, just want to ask general questions, you know, it doesn't become overcrowding, because they're there to teach. That's the point. You know, they all want to be involved, and everybody loves knowing that somebody else has been out there and seen their work and enjoyed it.
I think it's cool that they're willing to share it.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a massive part of our industry. Is art it's a massive communication for mental health, and you know, all other things. It's a very positive thing, and I think, yeah, just locking yourself away from it is difficult, but also kind of not putting yourself out there to ask questions, to get things, you know, just to learn.
Yeah.
Might be a something that avoids, you know, getting to work with your favorite people.
Starting this channel has made me have like before this, I was immature. I didn't think about art in some ways. I didn't think about dance and certain kinds of music. I would never listen to certain kinds of music. And now I have a whole new appreciation for it all, because I see that, you know what? Even if it's not something that I particularly like, it's somebody out there's favorite song, and it does something for that person. Like there are people who find their outlets all over the place. So I could totally see this being an outlet.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like in such a cutthroat industry, I think it's cool that hey, I figured out a new technique. Let me share it with everybody else. Like looking out for one another, making sure that the jobs stay secure. Hey, only we know how to do this.
Yeah, that's what I love, is, you know, especially with you've got platforms like Instagram now, and you can see somebody's entire portfolio just by looking through. But a lot of people kind of look and then they go, oh no, that's not what I want, and then they scroll off, and it's not seeing the potential in so many pieces of artwork that this person might have created. You've kind of flicked through 30 pieces of art that may have taken them several months to do, or 2-3 years to accumulate doing pieces together. But it's just,
you might also have some stuff on the back burner that you ain't know about. You can't just go based on, okay, these 30 pictures.
Yeah,
I would still want to meet people and be like, all right, tell me what you can do. Like,
yeah, that's it.
So Emma asks, which, of course, it was going to come up, which characters in the Dune films did you make up? Did you work on?
I wasn't in charge of anybody specifically. I worked a lot in the crowd prosthetics tent, but also I was kind of jumping between crowd and main team. So I kind of helped sometimes application with Tattoos and Rebecca Ferguson, or I did some sort of bits of makeup as well on, I think it was one day I did a scar for Josh Brolin, and another day I did Dave Bautista as well, with help with Ruth Haney. But a lot of the time, my main sort of job was to kind of come in and apply prosthetics to the Harkonnen, so all the bald guys.
Okay.
And we had a massive team of like 30-40 people. So I can't take credit for a lot of it.
Well, hey, you still helped with it. That's a big film. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of makeup artists that you're going to need to be working on.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing as well, because you kind of come in and you spend 2 hours doing one person, and the next person comes in, and if you've got 40 makeup artists doing one board cap every 2 hours, you've got,
at the end, you got an army of people that you've already worked on.
You literally do. And sometimes you step out onto the main field where they're shooting, and you've got literally 150 extras in front of you that are all just ready to go to war. It's nuts.
So sick, though. You got to see them as normal people in the back, but they don't look like that no more.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people also, you know, they come in with shaved heads as well. Some people get paid to do it. Some people already are bald, so they get cast for those roles as well.
It's the only way to go, man. Less worry, less hassle.
Exactly.
The only way to go. So do you ever take your talent and just do some things for yourself?
Yeah, I do quite a lot. At the moment, I'm writing a script. It's currently a short film, but hopefully I'm trying to extend it to become a full-length feature script. But with this story in mind, I've kind of already pre-designed an alien creature, and kind of from that, I was like, nobody's ever going to need to use this, because nobody's written a script for it or described anything that's kind of like it. So I'm going to write my own thing, and then get this thing filmed, and then I have a purpose for it. But in my own time, it's just been nice to kind of work on making CGI scenes for the concept trailer and getting things put together. So I do a lot of things in my own spare time.
Yeah, man. If I had your talent, my house would be badass. I would have so many of the things that I've always wanted to have.
Literally, I've got in the workshop. Like I look at it every day.
I would have all of the stuff. I'm recreating things for my house. There'll be some badass decorations. So that asks, do you also use your skills privately? Like, can people hire you?
Yeah. People can hire me. Even for private events and parties and things. A lot of people ask me, like, they call me up for Halloween. I've done a couple of like celebrity things as well, and I've also done some undercover stuff as well, which has been pretty amazing.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Can't really talk a lot about it. But,
no, obviously it was undercover for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And you've got to make some people look like other people so they can, get about.
That's so badass. Halloween's got to be a fun time, especially when you're just like, okay, I know I've got what it takes to make the craziest shit.
Yeah.
Let's have a Halloween to remember. We used to do that all the time, decorate everybody at grandma's house and her house. And like her house used to be a big ass pirate ship, or it used to be a big ass spaceship, but like never on the level that you see some of these people out there doing. It's like, good Lord.
When we worked on the sets of June, you had spaceships on cranes and you were just looking up at them and they're in the air flying in front of you and you're like, this is just nuts.
Like you're in a different world, huh?
You're in the desert. Like you might be in the middle of Budapest where you're in a very rural looking city, and then all of a sudden there's just sand and dust everywhere and it's just chaos. It's absolutely insane.
That's really freaking awesome. Like I can just imagine looking around going, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah, literally. I've been on top of mountains. I've been to Petra for the work I've done.
It's cool because it also allows you to have that travel time to go see the world.
Get to see the world and experience culture and learn new languages. It's amazing. I've got so many friends in different places now, and whenever I consider a holiday, I always think about when can I see my next group of friends, because it's nice to be able to go out and have a social background with everybody there.
Yeah, the connections that you make must be the most valuable thing in the world.
Exactly. It's beautiful. It's really nice.
I'm a traveler myself. I love going out. And even if people say, oh, don't go there, I'm going to go there because I know you're probably wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I've got exactly the same reactions.
You got to see it. I got to see it for myself.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let your bad experience ruin mine.
Exactly. We already answered some of these. So some of these are going to come off because they're kind of redundant. Let's see. Oh, how do you deal with difficult clients? Now, she said, I imagine the process might be painful or itchy, or they've been in a chair for a long time. Do people get pissed off at you?
Sometimes you can have, I would say, you got picky people. I'd say picky people is probably the best one. I'm not going to name names, but
no.
That would be a big slap on the wrist. But I think sometimes you can be in an environment where you've heard something about somebody, or they've just done something, and there can be tension in the room, or you work with somebody and they prefer to have their makeup done by somebody else, but they haven't had access to them. So that could also be difficult because they like to have their look a certain way, or they like to have certain products that maybe you don't have in your kit as of yet. So I have had experiences where somebody has nervously, somebody's taken blood and then put it on their face to kind of match continuity, which was completely wrong. So we've had to clean them up and then do it again. But then sometimes you get the backlash of, why is this person late? Because of, and then you kind of have to explain without dancing around the subject of what's going on while they're there.
Yeah, without just being like, it's him.
Yeah. Point and be like, it's this guy.
I'm not the problem here. So you should tell them not to try to do their own makeup.
Yeah, exactly. Or come in half an hour late because they've been on the phone.
Yeah, no. You gotta be in the chair ready to go.
Yeah, and that's a frequent problem. Is like you will have, and it's not necessarily down to exactly these roles, but it will go from cast to it will go from assistant director to traveling cast, and then cast will come to either costume or makeup. So there can be delays from the assistant direction time, like assistant directors, because they've had to spend an extra 5 minutes on schedule, so they're 5 minutes behind, and then you've got cast who are traveling in late because the taxi driver was late for 5 minutes.
And then they expect you to make up the difference.
Exactly. And then you kind of have this domino effect, and then everybody else is already on set and waiting, and then you're trying to do this half-hour prosthetic makeup in 5 minutes because
see, and then I was wrong again, because I was thinking, oh, okay, Face Off is something different. Like they're rushing on there because they have a certain time. Yeah. I wouldn't picture that you guys would have to rush, but there are a lot of variables there. That
we're some of the last people you see, other than maybe sound if they're getting microphones put on. But other than that, they'll see hair and makeup and costume, and then they'll go straight to set.
That's crazy. So sometimes you are still rushing, even if you don't want to be rushing.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you have to have, you've got to have mic fittings during application. Especially on when you're on lower budget stuff that can't afford to pay for those extra days, then or the extra time, then you really do have to kind of just allow things to just be the way they are. And if you kick up a fuss, then it's just going to cause more problems.
So you've become pretty fast over the years, then.
Yeah, actually, on the Stand Your Ground film, we had, I don't know if I can say specifically who it was or what it was,
okay,
but had a prosthetic makeup that we had to do, and I asked for an hour and 20 minutes, I think, and then I was only given 25 minutes in the end to shoot it because we were low on time, and this was the last time we were ever going to work with this actor, and this was the last part. But because there was some issues with some other things that had happened on set, we lost all this time, and we really wanted this shot because it was going to be, a massive scene breaker. So I did it in 20 minutes.
That's insane. That's like speed running through it.
It is nuts. And I've got a time lapse of it, so eventually when it goes public, I will put that up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in 20 minutes I had to do this full head like makeup, and yeah, it was pretty crazy.
There's something like Emma on here. She put, people don't realize, and she didn't really like, even if people look like they don't have makeup on, there's some makeup there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everybody's got makeup on, even if they don't look like they have it on. Some people might naturally be the most beautiful people you've ever seen, but you have to make them look run down and ugly. And because I don't know, for a film Going, which is now qualifying for a BAFTA at the minute, we had Genevieve O'Reilly, who's an amazing actress, but she's absolutely gorgeous, but we had to make her really look run down in this sort of world and this story. So I've had to like put bruise tones under her eyes and kind of add more blush for outdoor coldness. She hasn't got access to makeup, so her character doesn't wear makeup, so it wouldn't make sense for her to be beautified. So you have to really go back in those steps and kind of create washes of dirt and grime and bruise tones. And
I think it would be fun though. Hey, I'm gonna have to turn you into something.
You kind of think about like, what's this character? Have they got an iron deficiency? And then if you go from that route, you can also look at how skin tones change depending on the scene that you're in. Or this character, I've done a lot of bald caps for cancer patients, like in scenes. So skin colors do vary and change because as illness progresses, you're getting ill, and things do get worse. So you kind of have to look at it from that background. And some people might not be bald; you just wear a bald cap. You just never know.
Yeah, no, and those are those moments too. Those are those moments where that's somebody else. We've all seen these actors and actresses in a million different movies. Like you said, it's about making them look different than they've been in every other movie. But when someone's got a sickness or something like that, you really see this happening. You see them declining. It's almost like you guys have control over their health by just the way that you make them up. It's really insane to me how realistic. Do you have to go out and do a bunch of research on different plagues and diseases and things to see, okay, this is what it should look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I've even I've went just from past experiences in life as well. Like I've helped patch up homeless people's legs before, and they've had rotten flesh on their legs from overusage of drugs. So just putting dressings on and offering. I've seen things that will help my sculptural background, just knowing how flesh deteriorates. And it might be an awful thing to reference back to because it is real life, but that's how we get our job done, is looking at
that's how you make it real.
How does skin age? How do you make somebody who's human look like a snake or a fish? You've got to kind of find a good compromise between human flesh and scales. You've got different colors and textures going on. Yeah.
Do you prefer the realistic look, or do you prefer creating things that are completely made up, or is it just kind of, hey, I like either one?
For me, I like to go for the most non-realistic thing to be the most realistic it can be. So example,
that thing that was over the top,
yeah,
you would just make it over the top and terrifying,
like a human transforming into a fish. Like you could have half man, half mermaid, that kind of thing, or this person literally turns into like a carp. And how do you make a 6-7 foot long carp out of silicone and then put it in water and make it?
And how do you make it look real?
Yeah, exactly. And then also on top of that, like the challenge we're facing at the moment with the creature thing that we're doing with this fish guy is he has to be in water. So you've also now got to make it swim.
And then you got to worry about prosthetics falling off, and you got to worry. Jesus.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then obviously not making an actor drown. You've got so many different things that can go absolutely tits up, but you kind of just you've got to figure it out. Know, that this is where the science comes in, is knowing which materials are buoyant, which materials are not heavy, which materials are porous, so you can get the most movement out of what you're making, but also
without it falling apart.
Yeah, and not kill your actor.
Yeah, let's not kill the actor. I'm pretty sure you might not live that one down.
I've done it many times on other films.
Oh my God. Is there any kind of new skills that you're trying to improve currently, or maybe even take on any new skills? Any new things in the trade that you're looking into getting into?
Honestly, everything. Because
anything that comes up, you want to know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Everything that comes up, like when 3D printing started becoming a big topic. I've got a massive 3D printer here. I've got a Piopley Phenom L, which is like a massive resin printer. But before that, I had loads of these other little 3D printers that were printing with the spaghetti spool stuff, the FDM printers. But it's the change in technology. It's going from how have you made that 3D print look so unmanufactured?
Yeah.
Down to the technology of how this 3D printer works. So you've kind of got to look at what's the difference between SLA printing and FDM printing, and then what's the millimeter height difference in resolution of your layer prints. It can be crazy. Like the printer I've got can print down to, I think it's 0.082 millimeters, which is almost down to the resolution of the way that human eye can see as resolution.
That's pretty damn tight.
Pretty good. I mean, the dentists use these machines to make 3D molds for dentures and all kinds of crazy things. I use it for printing heads and molds and other
I use it for printing heads. Nobody's ever said that. What do you use your 3D printer for? I print heads.
Print heads. I'm a head guy.
Hey.
Yeah, it's insane. Like
technology does bleed. It all depends on what new kind of stuff. Has AI blended in at all yet?
Yeah, AI is coming into it. Like we're seeing a lot of creative things now, and I think it's helping more with the world of visual effects than it is practical effects. I think if there is a good way of looking at it from my end, is you could make a creature suit, but then use AI overlapping for like a filter overlay where you've made this creature look like something that it was before, but you want a completely different skin tone and color, or it's on fire, for example. It will just do it for you immediately without problems, which is, for me, that's pretty cool.
I like it. I like it because it lets anybody out there be
Yeah,
able to type in what's on your mind and get kind of it would be great for getting inspirations for things, I think.
yeah, exactly. And I think that, obviously, I think in about 10 years' time, you could just sit here and type on the keyboard what you want as a movie, and it would just make it for you. I think it could happen, but I feel like a lot of the glitches at the moment with the technologies that we have, we're trying to get somewhere that we're not there yet with. So
Yeah.
we're
I feel like a lot of it is still lacking in certain things that we absolutely need.
yeah, it's like when we thought 3D printing was going to change our industry for prosthetics, we're using it now for mold making, and also like if for you and I, if we were to never meet, I could 3D scan your face on the phone now, and then 3D print your head entirely, and then make prosthetics that would fit you, and then I could send them, and then somebody else in the US could make you wear them.
That's wild.
Yeah, and that's where I think the technology is really helping advance. I think that's amazing. The stuff that we're doing these days is just nuts. But where we are at the minute, I think we're still referring back to traditional techniques of sculpting and molding.
I don't know that they'll ever go away because there's some things that just will never be able to be automated.
Yeah, exactly. And you've still got time. If it takes the amount of time to print a mold, you could print 600 or 700 of them at the same time, which is, if you wanted to do batch manufacture, perfect. If you want to do like a shop, that would be absolutely brilliant for you. But if you're making one-off pieces, it might be easier to just hand sculpt it and mold it traditionally, depending on but it really it just differs depending on what project you've got on as well.
I like it. If you use it as a way to broaden the things that you can do, cool.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it doesn't completely take over and do the things that you do, but I don't think it'll ever come to that, because you can't replace the things that the human mind thinks about when it's doing things.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
I don't think that'll ever change. I think we'll always need people to do certain roles. And right now, everybody is so overwhelmed with the amount of AI things that are out there, but you can instantly tell still it's AI. All you got to do is look at the details.
Yeah, that's it. It can definitely help with editing software, making things go faster. It's a really good concept tool.
Suzette says, how do you balance your artistry with the technical demands of prosthetic work?
It's different. Like for me, I start with a digital sort of 2D sketch. So I'll go from there, and then we're discussing the sketch that I've done to then make a 5:1 scale, a 1:5 scale, maquette of this full creature suit. So we've got a full miniature that you can see on a wooden sort of mannequin, that you can see the person inside the suit. So it really varies on sort of what sort of art you're using. I mean, I guess 2D to 3D to 5D to whatever.
It changes on every project too, I'm sure.
Different. Sometimes I don't even have time to design something. I have to sit and make it.
Let's see. So, okay, with prosthetics, sometimes they're real, and sometimes they're sort of over the top. What's the difference in your approach when you construct them?
Sorry, could you say that with me one time?
Yeah, they said sometimes prosthetics look real. You have to make them look really, really real, and other times, like, I'm a Trauma fan. I don't know if you know about Trauma films, but they're like the most over dramatized things of all time. The gore, everything's really like, how do you go about your different, what's the difference when you're looking at something that's just, okay, this is wild and out there, or I need to make this look really, really real?
Honestly, like if it comes to gore, I'm literally looking at pathology books. If you've got pictures of people who have actually been killed, then that's the best way to go.
So you want it as real as possible.
I'll go from there, and then if the director wants more red, then I'll throw in a lot more blood, and then change up sculptures. But for me, I go as real as it can be. And then when it comes to pushing boundaries, you kind of got other things like brains being blown out and such. So you've got to make rigs for certain things. Like there was a film I did in Spain called The Cimarron, and there's a character who has his head blown off. He gets kind of shot in the head, and the back half of his head just completely explodes with a giant chunk of his head going missing. So to piece together what you have to do for something like that is whether you go CGI background or whether you go with a wig and then a piece that comes off with a small rig, or you see the entire head with an explosion. So it's how do you go about certain ways of doing that? What I did before is making a full like life sculpture of a head, and then put a PVC pipe on the inside with it's like an air plunger that you put in, when you
blow the shit out of the back.
Exactly. So you put that bunch of fake blood, and then this chunk that comes in, it's kind of like a puzzle piece. It fits perfectly in the back of the head, and then as you pull the trigger, all this blood comes up and out the back of the pipe, and then the chunks go out, and yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy. You got to think about every little detail. How is this gonna look? Do you ever do something and you're like so excited about it, but then you're like, damn it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to work out?
Sometimes it does, yeah. I definitely do a lot of tests, but when I've done something that's gone wrong before, I remember it, because sometimes when things do go wrong, they actually might end up being perfect for something else.
Even the mistakes can be used for something in the future. It's true. That's like an ideal definition of learning from your mistakes.
Exactly. And then like a lot of the time, like if I needed to create a lot of mushrooms once, and I know that when I tried making foamed latex, that you have acetic acid, which is kind of your sort of catalyst to make foam latex solidify. If you expose latex to vinegar or acetic acid, then you instantly coagulate the protein cells in latex. So you can drop drops of latex into this like vinegar, and it will just solidify, but you can make mushrooms from it. And I did it by accident because I completely ruined a batch of foam. I just solidified this entire bowl of foam. I was like, that's ridiculous. But now I know that I can do this. So I can shove a bunch of this stuff into a mold and then instantly, freeze it and then pull it out, and I've got a solid object. So there's like loads of different things where experiments have gone wrong, but they've kind of helped me on the other side to make mushrooms for something else, or something else.
So you just never, like, even the mistakes, you just keep being creative. You just think about, okay, what else can I? Oh, I remember this one time where I messed that up. That would be perfect for right now.
Like mixing a foam resin with a different type of foam or acrylic, and it might bubble differently or skin differently. It might give you a new texture. And then from if you need something like that, then you can see it in your mind's eye. That's what I need, and then you can just go back and recreate it.
You're a damn scientist.
Yeah,
there's a lot of science involved, the chemistry.
So it really helps.
That's freaking crazy cool. Matt, this is probably one of like the most random but cool interviews that we've done so far. Like it's a blast learning about all these things that we might never even get to hear about. Oh, you really damn sure need your own award show. Just who's the damn artist of the year? Who did the best acrylic? What was the best prosthetic? I think those people will watch that. I will watch it.
Yeah, well, we still have the Oscars. We've got the BAFTAs.
Yeah, but that's also for them. I'm talking about one that's just for you guys. Like behind the scenes, here's what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like you get enough credit. I really don't. Are there any specific projects you're particularly proud of?
Particularly proud of. I think Last Man Down is probably my sort of big claim to fame. I think that was my most proud moment, I think, and that was because we shot this movie in Sweden during COVID, the lockdown in the UK.
Oh yeah, that probably messed a lot of things up.
And the film was about a virus taking over the world, so it was so ironic. So out of hysterics, I kind of created I was the costume designer for the film as well as the makeup designer. So I decided to give all the bad guys these masks that were kind of like COVID masks for the film, just as a tribute for anybody who watches the movie. They all know.
You heard it right here, folks.
Yeah. So yeah, and we're planning to do a second one. There is a second one being written at the minute. So it was good enough. It made it to top 3 on Netflix, which was like my first movie that I could actually be proud of that actually went somewhere, and I did it myself. So that was pretty amazing.
You were the only one working on the whole movie?
No. Like for me, as like a department head, like I
supervised it all.
Supervised it all. I designed the costumes. My company supplied a lot of the props and the art department for it. You know, this was a big gig for me, international. So it was crazy. As well as we made some dead bodies as well, and they got confiscated in Sweden at the border. So when we shipped them, lost all the stuff that we'd made, so we had to make it all again in Sweden, which really sucks. But you know, that's another part of the challenge that, you know, I was very proud of, is that we managed to get around it all and still make it all work, and it turned out to be a pretty good movie.
Those bodies are still sitting around somewhere in lockup.
Yeah, they were confiscated by DHL, and we sent them over, and we had them on tract, and they just couldn't find them, and they confiscated them after finding them. They had bodies in there, which honestly, like these things happened to me so many times as well. I had a box in Saudi Arabia that I tried sending back to the UK, and that got stopped. The head of DHL had emailed my agent in like a massive thread argument about this box of severed heads. And they're all foam severed heads. Like no human remains are in there. But there's a very well worded email to say that this box has been scanned and it contains human remains, and we want to send it back because it's currently stuck. I think it was Siberia or somewhere else it was sent. So they'd looked at it and then sent it back, and then they gave it back to the guys in the hotel that I was staying with. And then they had this box of severed heads for about 3 weeks before I managed to get it home. And that was, again, praise to my agent, because she was able to figure it all out, and I ended up getting this massive box back.
On one hand, I could see it.
Yeah.
Like if I was the DHL person and I'd scan the Bible, like, holy shit.
Literally.
We probably should say something.
My first ever experience with this was I went to Brazil. I was stuck in Sao Paulo in the airport, and they basically cut the locks of my suitcase open. And the reason why is because I had a body in there in a full fetal position, but it was built around a skeleton. So when they did scan it, it was not only just body shaped, but it was also built around a skeleton. So they saw the skeleton when they scanned it. So they instantly assumed I had a body in there.
Who travels with a body in their suitcase?
This guy. Yeah, and I just remember these 2 police officers just looking at me and saying, "Is this your bag?" I didn't know a word they were saying. I just knew that they were pointing at me and saying, "What's in this bag?" And they'd already cut the locks open. They hadn't done the zip, but they wanted me to unzip it. So then I had the the sort of shame of opening it. And to their surprise, it was a burnt corpse. Which I was then let go with because they found it hilarious and I just took it to set. But
they thought it was hilarious after the fact.
I was very scared of it. Yeah, it was just because I was in an unknown country and they'd already found that there's something wrong with the bag and wanted to know who it was.
Did you think about it before you went to the airport? Like, man, maybe this might cause a problem.
I never thought it would because I know it's not gonna be. Nobody ever's checked my luggage, so I was like, that's fine. I'll just send this dead body through and surprise somebody.
He definitely surprised a few people, I'm sure. They probably still talk about it. Remember that time that guy came through with a dead body?
Yeah, probably.
That's fucking awesome. Oh man. Oh, let me see. How do you handle tight deadlines? We know you work fast.
Yeah, you just have to go, and if you don't go, then you're fired.
But there still has to be a quality aspect, or you're fired anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just have to go with it and hope. But I guess from learning how to speed up because you've only got 10 minutes, or the multitude of times it's kind of come through that you have 10 minutes less, or you've got you have a week to do this or 4 days to make this entire body rig, then you kind of just have to think logically, what's the fastest way I can do this without using as much material, because sometimes you're waiting on curing times or drying time for certain materials. So then again, the science comes back into it. I've had to make molds using the inside of mannequins as like a shell, and then putting a skin on the inside of that and using that as a mold, and that works perfectly. So it's coming up with clever ideas to make something work with near enough impossible deadlines. But
the shortcuts that you don't normally use, but you could use if you had to use them.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And you're constantly thinking about this as well. It's like when you're learning something new, like a vacuum form machine. It's like a sort of sheet of plastic that heats up, and then you drop it over a form, and it will create like a perfect shell. It's kind of like how Darth Vader's mask was made. Like Tom Davis made those. So like a lot of like toy packaging comes from those machines, and because of those rapid prototype molds, I thought it would be a good idea that maybe I buy one. So I bought a vacuum form machine, and I use it all the time, because if I need to make multiple copies of a prosthetic, but I can only make one mold because I've only got one face that comes into the mold that I can sculpt onto, I could rapidly make molds of that and then cast 6 or 7 of the same face really, really quickly, and then you kind of set up then. So it's finding those techniques to kind of speed up the process.
Do you ever work on anything where you have to make multiple copies, and then by the time it's done, you're just like, I never want to make that again?
Honestly, that werewolf costume was probably the hardest thing ever.
Really? But it worked, man. It was so flawless. That shit looked real as hell.
Yeah, I made that thing in 3 weeks. I think that was including design. So I estimated by weight of hair that it was about 250,000 individual strands of hair. Which to this day, I think I still got back problems from it.
You had to put them all in by hand?
Every single one of those hairs, I was picking up like 10, 15 at a time, and then putting some glue down onto the suit, and then layering it staggered like tiling a roof. That's just how you do it, and it's every part of the body, and then you've got the sculptures obviously underneath it, and I had to build like a muscle suit underneath all the skin textures first to kind of get the bulk right, so then that way you kind of had that V shape going on with the big shoulders. And then you've got the head with working jaw, which we didn't get to see that in the music video so much, but you kind of see some of the jaw moves up and down. But when we had it on set, it could really move open and close when our performer was opening and closing his mouth. So that was a massive feature that I tried to put in. But it's the amount of detail that you get for just a split seconds of footage.
Yeah, but some of these sculptures really require a certain level of physical fitness on your part as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I was the sole builder on it. I built all of it myself, and I had 3 weeks to do it, and that's what we did. It was just mad. But yeah, but that you kind of get used to it. If you love it, you do it, and you kind of you lose sleep over certain things because you're thinking about what's the next part of the process when you wake up. It is a full-time job.
It's just constantly on your brain. What am I gonna do next? What am I gonna do next? It's crazy. Emma says, can you share a moment when when your work had significant impact on a production or on a actor's career? Are there any that you did where people look and they just know that's that person? Like,
yeah, I did that a film called Creatures. It was kind of like a sort of spin-off. It was his own thing, but kind of like a copy of Gremlins.
okay.
These really cool like puppets that were built by stitches and glue. And I had to replicate a lot of those puppets for that. But one of our main casts was Christo. I can't remember what his name was in TV show, but he basically after that he got really recognized and became a massive part in Ted Lasso, the TV series.
Okay.
He also did some other things, I think, in Venom as well. Done a lot of TV shows, but we kind of did that, and that was kind of like his sort of debut UK thing. And then he ended up getting really, really big in Mexico, and then big in America. Did really well.
That's freaking awesome. I like that he even just, I don't know, there's certain people that you look at them from the movies and you know that they don't look like that, but that's how I see them in my head with all of their makeup, with all their prosthetics. That's the kind of person that I picture in my brain. Oh, that's so and so.
Yeah,
but
you kind of just you see somebody, and in 10 years' time, you find somebody. You see them on another project, or you've seen them in the cinema on another thing. You're like, wow, that's where they've gone, And I knew them when they began, like acting. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's freaking that. There it is. Those damn connections that you make, because you get to really deal with everybody that's kind of doing the thing.
Yeah, because you're often personal with them. If you're sat in the makeup chair for 4 hours a day, it's not.
You're obviously having conversation. You're not just sat there quietly.
You become like family at the end of the production, and then after that production's gone, it's just lost links, but you always keep in touch. But yeah, it's crazy.
Is there ever a moment where it's just like devastating that something is over? Like, we were having so much fun, I hate to see it come to an end.
Usually the longer projects for me, because you kind of establish a lot of connections and really, really good relationships with people, and you forget the lifestyle of what it was like, because you have to leave home a lot of the time when you're on location. You've got to go somewhere for 2-3 months filming, so the life back at home is forgotten, and you've kind of built a new life here because you live in Hungary now, or you live in Germany, or you live somewhere else. And you just create a new life entirely, and then all of a sudden it's over and you're back to reality again, and you're like, what just happened? Am I ever going to see these people again, hang out? Probably not, because we're all busy.
Yeah, but you're all busy and similar. You're all attached to that kind of industry.
This is what I love about our industry, is that we can jump from one project to another, and then maybe in about 3 or 4 years' time, you meet somebody that you've met with on another project, or you've been best friends with on another project, and you don't know until you turn up that they're there, and you're like, wow, okay, great, this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, damn, I'm glad to see you.
Exactly, it's lovely. I love that. That's a big part of my sort of profession as well. It's just like you travel, and then all of a sudden you've got the same group of friends again, and it's great.
It really does. Like, That's the other thing. But a lot of times we don't think about it when they're on shoot somewhere. They're there for the shoot. They're there for the entirety of the filming of this thing, and some things can take months, years,
Yeah.
however long it's gonna take.
Yeah.
That really would be like starting a whole brand new life all over again. Here I am living in this country now.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like you learn different things. Like I've learned multiple like different bits of languages as well, parts of the culture, and seen so many different things. And it's inspiring as well because you learn a lot more about history when you go to these places as well. You learn about what's happened there and what real culture is like. And me as somebody who deals with culture on basically a daily basis, it inspires a lot of my artwork. It's down to details of, like, for example, I know that you are a veteran. Do you have any tattoos?
I do.
Do you have any swallows?
I don't have swallows.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the thing, is like for me, when I research into projects, I do, like, when we had Stand Your Ground, I had to kind of create these swallow tattoos for the 5,000 miles of sailing that you do, when you go off. So it's like finding those sorts of details, is knowing something about somebody and knowing the story of where they've come from. But because I've done this research, I bumped into my girlfriend's uncle. This was the first time I met him, and he shook my hand, and he had 2 swallows on his wrist, and I'd just been designing swallow tattoos, so I knew exactly where he'd been and what he'd been doing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like they would have a whole new. It's like you're constantly researching in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And then you kind of know somebody before you've even spoken to them as well, just by looking at them. Like we will know where they're from in Europe, just by knowing what or when they came back to the UK after they've had 4 or 5 years in Australia. It's knowing the haircut and how it was done, and the eyelashes or the type of makeup they were using. It comes down to those details, and I can see that whenever I'm walking up and down the street or meeting new people, I can see pretty much a lot of their life before they even know it. It's pretty great.
It's kind of like a superpower.
It is kind of like a superpower. I feel like I could work in the FBI.
I feel like you might be able to. You would definitely be able to read some faces. He's lying. Maybe you'd be a good poker player.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, no, I'm terrible with numbers. I couldn't.
I'm horrible at anything that requires any kind of numbers or counting or math. That's not my gig.
So,
do you have any advice for any aspiring professionals interested in the field?
be nice to everybody. Even if they hate you, just be nice, because you never know. Like, somebody might pick you up for a job, or it doesn't matter whether you're going for a job or not. It's just be nice to everybody in general, because if you end up getting hired by somebody and they know somebody else that you've had a past story with, it might become an issue. Or it's knowing how to be polite, but being punctual as well, being business minded, but also not taking advantage of people, and do as much as you can for yourself more than other people. So if it's art that you want to do, or makeup and prosthetics you want to do, make a lot of things for yourself and then eventually share those things with other people, rather than make something to impress somebody, because a lot of the time you'll end up being heartbroken because you kind of made something for somebody else who might not really appreciate it that much.
If you make something for yourself and you're proud of it and you want to share it around, that's normally when it's the best, the thing that you made.
Exactly. It's self-worth as well. You do something that's going to make you proud, not make it so your boss is. You obviously you do it to make your boss proud, because you're there for your job, but you're doing it to make you proud. And that's is finding that fine line between work relationship and business relationship as well. That's also
Yeah.
the hard part.
There would definitely be that. It would get a little confusing. It would,
Yeah.
because you're working with them all the time. You basically live with these people. You're gonna develop friendships, but at the end of the day, it's still a business, and there's still things that need to get done.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And just spend every part of your day. If you've got 15-20 minutes, sit and draw something that can help inspire you, or try and learn something that's new. Do something that's new every single day, and eventually you'll do the things that you want to be doing.
So, do you do something with it every single day?
Every single day. Every day. I carry my iPad around with me, and if I'm not sculpting on the iPad, I'm drawing. And if I'm not drawing on the iPad, I'm writing something down, like a part of my script. I'm creating CGI for my movie that I haven't finished yet. I'm always doing something.
You really want to branch out and learn how to do everything, huh?
Yeah, it's good for me, because then I know what the processes are for other people. So if I get involved making something that needs CGI, I know the process, and I know how difficult it might be because a makeup artist hasn't done something, or they've used the wrong chroma key green that was needed to make the effect work on the other side. So if I learn to do those things in my head, not only could I help with the edit of certain things, but I can also help advise, or now I know that if I've got something, I could 3D scan this and then send it to you. And then that way you don't have to make your way down to this production. You could just sit at your computer and then start editing at home. I do things to make other things easier for other people, but I also do it for my own knowledge and research.
Makes sense to me. I'm constantly trying to figure out things that I don't know that are related to what I do. And I don't know, it makes you more valuable. It makes you, people are, once they know that you know how to do something too, then they're like, oh, well, so and so already knows how to do that. That's who I want.
Like it's down to, like, for me, with the workshop I've got, and now that I've done some costume jobs, I've got like several hundred army outfits, all in different camos and all different types of guns and equipment for stunt guys. So if somebody goes, oh, we need this army film, but we also need a bunch of prosthetics and blood and dead bodies, you just rent it from one place to get one van to come pick it all up, and then it's all gone and done. And that's the easy part.
Here to pick up an army of dead bodies, load them up.
That's it.
That's freaking badass, man. You probably have one of the coolest jobs of all time.
Thank you.
I don't know, it's so different than just normal art, because I don't know, and we really do. We don't really think about it. You see someone in the movies, it's real to you. It's real that person just got shot.
Yeah.
There's so many intricacies that go into it. Like you said, you had to, not even shooting in order. How the hell do you even do that? Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Like, you just have to just know the script off the back of your hand and know which scenes you're shooting, and then at that point, have you made any makeup changes? Is the character changing at any point in the story before then or after? And then you have to make note of that before. So say if you started a film on scene 50 and you've got an action film of this guy who's getting battered and bruised the entire way, you have to mentally decide, in that fight he got punched at this point, and then he got stabbed at this point, so he has these scars at this point, and you've got to follow that as a timeline, and then work up to that side, work up to that side, and then all of it works.
In a way, you almost have to predict what something would look like days after it happened.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I bruised my arm. What's that bruise? Where's it gonna move to? How's it gonna?
Yellow or black, or is it still red, or is it is it scabbing and healing, or is it fresh blood? It's when did it happen, at what point, which day of the film in its story is it? Not just like if it's day 3 of filming, it's in the story. There might be 5 or 6 days, or there might be 4 or 5 years. You have to decide then and there how old this scar is, or if that bruise is gone, or if that bruise is back again for some different reason, because it's more swollen, or Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How much of it, like you get the script?
Mhm.
Is there anybody that comes in and tells you, no, not like this?
Yeah. So I can sit down with the director, and then usually the line producers and the assistant directors are all with me, and then we'll kind of go through the entire script, and I'll go, okay, right, I want to do this, and this for this action scene. And they go, right, well, we've spoken to the stunt guy, and he needs all this time to rehearse before we do it. So we're going to have to cut out all of this time for your makeup to be able to afford the time for the day, because it's a health and safety reason. So you kind of have to go back, and then I'll go back to the workshop and then think about what I've got to do.
Back to the drawing board, as they say.
Recreate something that basically is exactly the same, but takes half the time and ends up in the same final outcome, because the scene is all still being shot the same way. It's just being, rehearsed and choreographed and shot differently. But you have to work. Which point does he get shot, stabbed, killed, broken arm, knife?
No kidding. You mentioned the stunt people. I didn't even think about that. You got to sometimes make them up to look exactly like that other person as well.
Yeah, you've got doubles as well. Yeah. So for the Stand Your Ground film, we had multiple of the swallow tattoos and the neck tattoos and everything, and a wig to make sure that our stunt actor was exactly the same. Same thing for Last Man Down. Same thing we did for Timothée Chalamet on Dune. There was a wig made, and then we have to make sure that everything's exactly the same. It comes down to the molecular detail of hair count and certain things like that as well. Like even if you've got, we did, I don't know if you saw the TV show Moon Knight, but it's a sort of Marvel TV show about an Egyptian god, he's like an avatar controlling a human. But Oscar Isaac's playing a character who has multiple personalities. And the way that we shot that was with multiple stunt doubles with his multiple personalities acting as each character. But Oscar Isaac has a brother, and we had to make his brother look like Oscar using a prosthetic nose. So we had to glue a prosthetic nose onto him every day to make him look like Oscar in certain parts of reflections. So you've got Oscar's brother here and Oscar here, and then another stunt double here to make personality number 3. And you've got,
and they're all conversating with each other.
They're all conversating with each other. Cameras bouncing around different angles in the room, shooting whatever parts next. But the difference as well is within the character makeup design, there were choices made for each of his personalities to look slightly different too. So you had more swept hair, or he was a little bit more slightly tidier looking, or it might just be personality difference. So he might have an English accent, and then one of his other personalities might be American. So it comes down to those things as well. So it's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, it sounds wild as hell.
But you'll get it if you watch the show. I did 5 of the 6 episodes.
I'm definitely checking it out now. It sounds like my kind of show anyway.
Yeah, it was really fun.
What kind of future plans are you looking at? You got any projects that you want to accomplish in the coming years?
We want to do The Last Man Down 2. I would love to do that. Me, going to be my biggest one. I would like to very much continue the same world, and then also be revisiting something that I've done a few years ago, but also then slightly develop upon the work that I did last time. So it's bringing old memories back but making them better. And then it's a lot of those types of things. I have something potentially happening in Vegas next year in October. Where I can't really say what it is.
Yeah, I understand it.
It involves a lot of big characters. So hopefully that comes to fruition, and we can continue with that. other than that, just, you know, day-to-day living. I want to try and work on this fish man suit now. Get this thing done, and we'll see how that comes out. But
yeah, you gotta beat that timeline.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think that will be public until probably next year. So sometimes you've got to
See, and that's cool. You get damn sneak peeks.
Yeah, well, you're there for the whole process.
Yeah, you know what's going on before anybody else, but I'm sure you're not allowed. You have to sign a bunch of NDAs and things like that.
Exactly, that's it. You've got
There's all the legal ramifications. That's why
yeah.
some things can't be talked about.
Yeah, and that's the annoying thing as well. Is like when I'm posting stuff, usually it's because of some work that I've done either a year or 2 years prior.
Yeah, because it's hard to talk about your current projects.
Yeah, exactly. You can't talk about them. So, you know, when you're doing something like that, it has to be a live event, or, you know, something that you've done 1 or 2 years ago that's been released, and you can only share the trailer of because the footage itself is in film festival or still screening, so you can't share spoilers. So it ruins marketing that way as well. So you're kind of interfering with other people's realm.
It's not the job for you if you can't keep a secret. Like,
yeah. If you're a chatterbox, then that's probably not a good place to be.
Are you a coffee guy or a tea guy?
Coffee.
Yeah, gotta be coffee.
Yeah,
Tea's too light.
Black coffee.
Just black, straight black.
Yeah, yeah.
These are just some random ass questions that are at the end. What's something about your job that still excites you every day?
I think just reading a script with a new story and a new writer, I think for me is always exciting because there's always something new. I've got a film coming up currently where we've had to make decisions on whether this character has to have a wig or not, because we're deciding whether we want her natural brown hair or whether we want red hair. So we've now come up with a solution that we need this wig. So now it's making a wig that fits the vibe of the film. So for me, it's jumping back from doing a massive, like, crazy prosthetic character to then more subtle characters that you just didn't know were wearing certain parts, or, you know, there were hair changes that were done that you just didn't know. So I think for me, it's just every time I get a new project, it's always different. So that's what I enjoy about it.
So you enjoy the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're ready for anything.
I'm ready for all of it. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
That's freaking awesome. Do you ever get emotionally attached to the characters or creatures that you create?
Yeah, actually, sometimes there has been scenes where I've watched them and I've actually sobbed, like, with tears because of how much, you know, emotion they've put into, you know, making something so real and so, you know, well thought out. It's not only the writing, but it's the direction and then the performance, but then the makeup enhances all of it as well. So, you know, it's making those details, or even, you know, coming into a scene where it's very emotional between the cast on set and they might be crying and, you know, they've got a very emotional, heavy scene, but they might have been doing this for 3 or 4 hours now and they've run out of tears. So you've got to come in and then try and make, you know, them
try and get them some tears back.
Exactly. And you've got to kind of come in and do your artistry, but not interfere with the vibe of what's being shot, because for the camera, the tear might be the most crucial part of that scene for a close-up, because you might just want the teardrop, but they might have gone through an intensive one shot, and then all at the very end is going to be this one tear, and then you've kind of got to figure out how's that going to work. Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot. But
so, but the magic isn't lost on you, even like when you see the finalized product. Even though you worked on it and you know it's all fake, it is still possible to get emotional.
Yeah. That's the thing. You can also remember being there behind the camera as well, and you kind of remember what certain locations would be like. So you remember all the laughs and the giggles you've had behind camera, but then also when you're watching the actual footage itself, you kind of realize how important the stories are and what's going on. Obviously, we knew when we were shooting what we're doing, but it's then seeing the final picture and going, wow, it's everybody's work. It's the lighting, the costume, the makeup, the direction, the cinematography. You know, every single department that's at work there has done their bit, and you're so proud of that moment. It's, you know, that's what we're there for.
I think that's awesome. Like, yeah, everybody wants to get paid, but if you have that kind of a reward at the end of it, that would be a breath of air. You know what? It's over. We don't have to do it anymore. But damn it, it was fun. We actually made it happen. It actually turned out. I think that's the ultimate reward. It's like going back and watching the final product and going, yeah, that's the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah, agreed. It's brilliant.
Well, it's freaking awesome. I definitely appreciate you coming on and answering some questions. Maybe we have to hook up again in the future where you could talk about some of these projects that you can't talk about yet.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's all the questions I have. But where do you have a YouTube channel we could shout out? Where can people go to find you if they want to hire you for Halloween?
Got an Instagram. It's Theodore.Salisbury.official, I think, is my official Instagram. But
fantastic.
Probably link it below or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop all your links down inside of the description anyway, for sure. I appreciate you. I know you got to go work on a fish costume now.
Yeah,
it's that time. You can no rest for the wicked, making dead bodies and printing heads.
Yeah,
but I appreciate you for your time, Theo. It has been an amazing getting to know you. All this from just a damn Powerwolf werewolf. So yeah, I'm glad it went this way.
If we hadn't done that video, then we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, no, man, it was the damn werewolf. It was so like I've seen werewolves. Everybody's seen werewolf movies, but that one was convincing as hell.
I'm so glad you liked it. I'm so thank you. Thank
you. Tons of hard work and dedication. If you guys enjoyed it, definitely hit the like button. Leave comments down below. We're gonna run it as I'm gonna run it as a premiere, so there'll be a live chat and things like that. If you feel like jumping in, jump in. If you're working on the Fishman, work on the Fishman. And yeah, I'll definitely. Well, me and you will talk more on the outside. But I appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time.
Great, thank you very much.
It's not often we get to meet somebody like you, so thanks again, and I will see you on the next one.
Absolutely, brilliant. Thanks, Bob.
All right, brother.